Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Li Tai. Thank you for joining us. In today's lineup, we'll bring you more reports on the monsoon and flood situations throughout Taiwan, as well as what city volunteers are doing to help disaster victims in the aftermath. In northern Vietnam, city volunteers delivered new sandals to leprosy patients in 11 cities and counties, a provincial government handout that was commissioned to city this year due to budget cuts. And we meet a police officer in Taiwan's Taichung who took a liking to Tzu after watching DaAi TV and has even signed up to join volunteers' ranks. Taiwan has been suffering from flooding and landslides since last weekend after a monsoon triggered days of torrential rain throughout the region. The most severely hit areas were the southern and central part of the island. Many rivers flooded, forcing residents to evacuate to safety. Classes and work were cancelled across the country to keep people out of harm's way. In a short while, we will look at the situation in Kaohsiung's Liugui and Jiaxian and around Taoyuan in the north. But before that, we go to New Taipei City, where rubber rafts were deployed to rescue flood-trapped residents. The widespread flooding across the city resulted in varying degrees of damage, as we shall see in the next report. From an aerial view, one can see that large sections of land surrounding National Highway No. 2 are submerged in muddy water that could not be drained in time. Rescue rafts are out to deliver stranded locals to safety.
The rain came hard and fast and brought on severe flooding.
With children in their arms, flood victims fled without grabbing their valuables. The water gushed straight into homes in low-lying areas and trapped people inside their houses for several hours. Meanwhile, at Fuhe Bridge in Yonghe District, rainfall reached 80 millimeters per hour. Many could only walk their mopeds in the knee-deep water. In neighboring Zhonghe, outside Global Mall, the traffic was a chaos on the slightly flooded roads. And on Nantai Road in Taishan District, also in New Taipei City, a section of the road sunk after the heavy rains, taking with it 3 vehicles. Notified car owners were at a loss for words upon arriving at the scene. According to the head of the neighborhood, torrential rain washed away the foundation of the road, causing half of the parking lot to cave in.
The gutter is in disrepair, and the water that flowed into it also washed away the foundation of the road.
While some escaped from the flood unharmed, others weren't so lucky. At around noon on June 12th, the son of this cable TV installation provider was found lying in a gutter behind the factory. The 17-year-old was said to have fallen into the channel and drowned in the floodwater.
The ditch is quite wide. When I was repairing machines in the morning, someone from next door told me they found a person lying in the gutter. I went to check, and it seemed to me he had already passed on.
Although the storm has weakened, there are still flood-related incidents around New Taipei City. Residents are advised to stay alert and avoid disaster-hit areas. As aforementioned, southern Taiwan has been hard hit by the ongoing torrential rains. In Kaohsiung's Jiaxian, many roadways have been closed due to landslides, debris or flooding. Evacuation began on the 10th, and so far more than 590 people have been evacuated. Meanwhile, in Liugui, the Laonong River is overflowing. To be safe, more than 200 people living in the vicinity of the river have also been evacuated. Weather forecasts predict more rain on the way, and a typhoon might even come this way over the weekend. Continuous torrential rain has caused the Laonong River to quickly overflow. The raging torrents crashing against the bridge supports makes for quite a frightening sight. Currently, the height of the river has not reached the red warning line, and thus the Liugui Bridge remains open. However, crossing the bridge remains treacherous for motorists. Many places around Liugui are flooded just like this. It is nearly impossible to differentiate the roads from the rivers. Afraid that the rain will only get heavier and trap even more residents, the local district office is evacuating Zhongxing Borough residents to a nearby temple. After receiving the evacuation notice early in the morning, residents quickly made their way to Tianhou Temple. Most of the residents here are elderly, as young people have gone to the city in search of better jobs. Meanwhile, many roads leading to Jiaxian are closed due to landslides or fallen debris. Route 21 is off limits due to 2 closed-down bridges. Local officials are working quickly to get residents to safety.
Both the Baolong and Nanzixian bridges have been closed off. Right now, we use Route 128 to get us to Sanling.
For the safety of Jiaxian's residents, starting from the 10th, officials have already evacuated over 500 people from the area, 40 of whom are currently sheltered in 2 local temples. However, at the Dong'an borough, an elderly couple still refuses to leave their home.
An elderly couple did not want to leave, so today the district office will be sending them supplies.
The rain hasn't let up in the Jiaxian area, and there are sporadic heavy downpours. Please do not head towards that area in the meantime. We have more on the flood situation in northern Taiwan. In Taipei, along Jilong Road, Section 3, an entire lane was completely submerged. And further up in the mountain, a community was also struck by a mudslide. Residents said the landslide was the first in more than 10 years. But before that, we go to Taoyuan to understand more about the extent of flood and mudslide damage.
Where we are right now is Taoyuan City's Fuxing Road, and you can see how serious the flooding is in this basement. There are still over 10 cars inside. They couldn't make it out in time and are all underwater now.
Residents of this building in Taoyuan City are not so lucky, as many cars parked in basement are inundated.
It's been less than a month since I bought this car, and it's already flooded. The car park manager is now setting up the water pump.
Vehicle owners had to wait till late afternoon before a pump finally came to draw the water out.
This is the first time in 10 years I have seen this. Before, the water will only get to knee level in the basement. This time, the water came in too quickly.
After the water receded in this building on Wanzhou Road, residents are devastated to see their damaged furniture and belongings.
What can we do? The government doesn't compensate those living in the basements, but it isn't our choice to live here either.
As the water finally subsided in Taoyuan, police officers opened up the road to allow the traffic to flow. Moving to Jilong Road, Section 3 in Taipei, one can see some 20 workers clearing away the mud left behind by the flooding.
The residents are slowly moving their things and some recyclable items. We have cleared out nearly a ton's worth of mud.
Further up on the mountain, the situation gets even worse. Nearby residents say the mudslide occurred around 4 or 5 a.m. on Tuesday, and this temple was severely damaged.
Water came pouring down from the mountain and flooded all the residential houses on Jilong Road, Section 3.
After the cemetery was relocated, this area hasn't been maintained properly, and all the trees were cut down, leading to the mudslide. Some 10 years ago, this wouldn't have happened.
Luckily, there are no reported deaths or injuries in this area, and government officials have arrived for a quick survey to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future.
All over Taiwan, city volunteers have mobilized to help flood victims by offering food, shelter or cleanup services to hard-hit communities. In the next story, we follow volunteers to Taoyuan, where 7 people in Guanyin Township were trapped by the flooding that took them by surprise in the early hours of Monday morning. Survivors were rescued and taken to the nearby Xingpo Elementary School for shelter. City volunteers later came to visit them with relief supplies.
With tears in her eyes, flood victim Ms. Tsai tells the volunteers of how water rushed inside her house at 4:30 a.m. Monday morning, giving their family no opportunity to escape. The woman is still shocked by what happened.
There are still people caring for us. Scenes of what we went through just came flashing back, and that's why I was in tears.
City volunteers were mobilized right away to visit residents living in the temporary shelter, and they brought along food and emotional support.
We prepared a peace ornament, dried food, and instant noodles. I told the victims not to worry and that we will continue to be here for them.
Right after the water receded and the alarm was lifted, we came to help residents relocate and also ask suppliers to pave the roads.
Ms. Tai and her family will seek temporary shelter at their relatives' home and are all grateful that everyone is still safe and sound.
Back to Kaohsiung, where the rain first started, Tzu Chi volunteers have established a coordination center and are standing by to provide assistance when necessary. Volunteers also checked on solitary seniors under their care to make sure they're safe from harm.
Continuous torrential rains have caused extensive flooding throughout much of southern Taiwan. In Kaohsiung, Tzu Chi volunteers are standing by to help.
We formally established the Kaohsiung Torrential Rain Coordination Center.
Volunteers also make sure the solitary seniors under their care are doing all right.
Mrs. Wang is wonderful. She is always happy to see us. We moved up our date with her. Originally, we were going to visit her this Thursday.
Volunteers also brought rice and freshly made zongzi for the seniors to celebrate the Dragon Boat Festival early.
I got up in the middle of the night to check and see if there was any flooding. I'll be careful tonight as well.
In spite of the rain, volunteers continue to make house calls until all seniors are accounted for.
Since 2009, Tzu Chi volunteers in Vietnam's northern Hai Duan province have regularly assisted those suffering from leprosy. This year, due to budget cuts, the provincial government requested Tzu Chi assistance in donating shoes to leprosy patients. As such, Tzu Chi volunteers traveled to 11 cities and counties in the region and distributed 162 pairs of sandals to those in need.
Practicing sign language before setting out, Tzu Chi volunteers are especially mindful of their mission, hoping to not only provide shoes to those in need, but also to leave a lasting impression. Following 4 separate routes, volunteers overlooked no one in their quest to provide footwear to those in need, and those afflicted enjoyed a new sense of self-worth as they gratefully accepted the gifts. This was the Haidian provincial government's first cooperation with Tzu Chi in providing the footwear. Tzu Chi received financial support from the Taiwanese community, though the volunteers spent 4 days to visit all on the receiving end. The effort was well worthwhile, as each of the 162 pairs of sandals was a perfect fit. The volunteers also shared how patients at Taiwan's Lesan Sanatorium has made peace with themselves and come to an acceptance of their conditions.
每月都有大批的志工前往关怀2次。
Since 2009, volunteers have visited on a monthly basis. In time, the leprosy patients lowered their guards and eventually learned to open up to the volunteers. Impressed, local government officials gained great respect for Tzu Chi, especially when the turnout rate was 30% higher than the original estimate of 50%. Sufferers came away with not only a new pair of shoes, but also, more importantly, a sense of friendship and acceptance.
As the Southern Hemisphere enters the winter months in Free State, South Africa, temperatures at night often plummet below zero. To help residents endure the bitter cold, Lesotho Tzu Chi volunteers went over to South Africa to distribute rice and cooking oil to over 700 low-income households, as well as schools and the nursing homes.
The sun may be bright, but it is still freezing cold in South Africa, where the winter months are never warm enough for residents, and oftentimes there isn't enough food to go around.
People from Taiwan for the rice they donate at nearly half hostel. My kids is very happy with this rice.
In the town of Ladybrand, located on the border of South Africa and Lesotho, residents are happy to see Tzu Chi volunteers arrive with bags of rice and cooking oil. They burst into a chorus of Amin Tofu to welcome them. The teacher takes this opportunity to explain to the students about reciprocation.
So that also they can be able to learn, so that they can have a bright future, and next time when they have prospered, they should also help other needy people.
However the residents carry the donations home, the love they receive is the same. The love from Taiwan will keep them warm in the coming winter months.
In the continuation of our featured series on Tzu Chi volunteers among Taiwan's police force, we traveled to Taichung to meet Officer Huang Jianle. Huang was originally introduced to Tzu Chi by a fellow police officer. He has since joined the organization in earnest, undergoing volunteer training and spending his off-duty hours doing recycling, joining home visitations and other Tzu Chi activities.
This is it. For today, that counts as our fourth or fifth stop.
Huang Jianle is a policeman by profession, and when traveling with his fellow recycling volunteers, he always makes sure to remind them to pay attention to detail.
When parking, you need to be careful that you're not parking in any illegal areas. For example, it is illegal to park 10 meters or closer to an intersection. Okay, we got space. I will often think of the Master's words, of how she always reminds us to be more considerate. If we are more considerate, then our problems can be solved much quicker. Pull it here and dump it.
Regardless if it is during volunteer or police work, Huang keeps Master Zhen Yan's words close to his heart. Inspired by Tzu Chi volunteers' dedication, the men living an ordinary life began to watch the Master's sermons on DaAi TV. He's now undergoing volunteer training and knows he needs to devote time to Tzu Chi.
I call and he comes. There has not been once when I called and he did not come. He even asked for time off from work to be here. If you just spend your free time taking it easy, time passes so quickly, and it is meaningless. But for Tzu Chi, it is a highly organized group, and we have a lot of work that needs to be taken care of. We can spread the message of Tzu Chi or do good deeds. I think this is a great place.
At the logistics section of the Taichung Police Department, Huang is busy handling the assets distribution for the city's police stations. Although a difficult job, his spiritual training allows him to keep his composure.
I use a benevolent and accepting heart when dealing with co-workers. That has cut down on conflicts and things get done a lot smoother.
Huang Jianle says that a human birth is difficult to attain, true teacher is difficult to find, and the Dharma is difficult to hear, so he's making every second count.
On June 6th, on a recommendation by China's Environmental Protection Authority, Tzu Chi volunteers arrived in Bingdilian community in Jiangsu's Kunshan city to promote conservation. Volunteers taught the residents how to make soap out of cooking oil and enzyme detergent with fruit peels, which helped change the way residents viewed their leftovers.
audience claps along to a performance of a Kunsan dialect song. The lyrics have been changed to raising environmental awareness.
After we visited the recycling center, we were inspired to write a song. This way, when we promote conservation, it helps to make an impression.
China's EPA, along with Tzu Chi volunteers, venture into communities on June 6 to spread the word about conservation. This informational workshop changes residents' opinion about trash.
The oil left over from cooking or frying, it just sits there unused, right? So now we can turn that unused oil into soap.
Around this season, we eat a lot of watermelons, so there will be a lot of shells left. And when we eat oranges, orange peels will be left. They can be made into different fruit enzymes.
The Tzu Chi volunteers also visit kindergartens to teach the children about recycling.
Tissues used to wipe our hands or oils and filth are not recyclable. All other papers can be recycled.
Recycling what once was considered trash reduces waste and the impact on our environment.
In Taiwan, in anticipation of Dragon Boat Festival that falls on June 23rd this year, Taidong volunteers made many zongzi or sticky rice dumplings to give to police officers and students to share with them the joy of the annual festival. Meanwhile, Hualien Tzu Chi volunteers also prepared 1,400 zongzi and apples to wish their care recipients safety and peace.
As the Dragon Boat Festival is just around the corner, Hualien Tzu Chi volunteers go from door to door to give their blessings and apples to the care recipients. The apples are not only healthy but also symbolize safety and peace.
Many of our care recipients are seniors who have stomach problems, so we decided to give them apples because it is healthy. We hope they can have a happy and safe Dragon Boat Festival.
Meanwhile, Hualien Tzu Chi volunteers at Jian Liaison Office are busy preparing 1,400 zongzi that will be given to their care recipients. To wrap the zongzi, volunteers start off by washing the bamboo leaves before stir-frying the rice and making the filling. Although the cooking process is long, everyone works with relish.
The Dragon Boat Festival is coming up, so we're here to wrap zongzi. The treats will be given to our care recipients to connect with them.
To celebrate the Dragon Boat Festival and Taiwan's National Police Day, Taidong Tzu Chi volunteers are also delivering zongzi to police officers in their neighborhood. The volunteers hope to use this chance to show their love and care for their communities.
We end the show in Jingse Boat in Hualien, Taiwan, where Dharma masters worked around the clock to prepare 3,000 kilograms of instant rice for the flood victims in inundated Taoyuan. That's all for today. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.